the thing I want people to know is you are more than your circumstances. And I mean, the micro may look different. I mean, you're in a different country than I am. You're a different age. You have different aspirations. You have different challenges to work through. So the micro may look different from person to person, but the macro of being a human being and having certain needs challenged and certain um, part about being a human being all looks the same because we're all human beings. So I just want to encourage people to be greater than your circumstances, to have a vision that allows you to be inspired, to think larger than your circumstances, and to create the identity that you want. Embodying what you believe is what gets other people inspired because they see you doing something that they kind of resonate with in one way or another. And then they build a belief that, oh, I can do that too. Be about it. Don't talk about it. And if you break that down, don't talk about it, be about it. Being about it, in my mind, encompasses action, belief, perspective, identity, thoughts, vision. It's just been that journey of transformation and expansion on going all in on expressing my truth in these different aspects of my life that which led me today to where we're having this conversation. Simply put, I believe transformation, like what it means to me, is just
Right. So, Josh, this is round two for my podcast with you, and I am excited. I think you're the first person who has come two times on. Yeah, I would just say that the other one who has come two times is Nick Hutchison from Book Thinkers, but we just recorded one episode because the other Zoom meeting was just us talking, and I forgot to record. But yeah, yeah, I am glad that we could get this done again. And well, I want like to start from where we left. And we were talking about like visualization, and like I think the last sentence that you said was about like success being having a vision and also knowing how to live in a certain way that vision daily, and that includes like passion and obsession. And I would like you to like talk about that again because you weren't able like to get deeper into passion.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think what I've learned is from people of all walks of life that we would deem or label successful, depending on whatever that means to us, whatever area of life we're looking at, whether that's an athlete, an artist, business, a parent, a doctor, whatever. Successful people know what they want and they know how they'll know they have what they want and they have a plan to get it. So
Mhm.
when I'm referring to visualization or having a vision, it's not so much like literally, well, it is a little bit, but not so much what people normally think like, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to visualize this, and then it's going to happen. What I'm saying is creating a vision in your mind, whether that's closing your eyes, writing it down, describing it, whatever your creativity side of you brings out, what it's whatever form. But it's really getting clear on what you want to be true about your life. What do you want? What do you want to see? What do you want to feel? Who do you want to be with? Where do you want to be in the world? What things do you want to be doing? And what emotions are going to come from that? And then trying to operate the best you can daily from those set of emotions that's going to be congruent with the outcome you want. And I guess a good way to put this is so much of society thinks outcome. I want X, I want
Mhm.
Y. And then they go a little bit, I think we already talked about this last week, but they go a little bit inward of like, okay, how do I make that happen? But I
Mhm.
find very few people, and I was one of these people until I was made aware of this, ever think, who do I need to become now that allows me to do those things, that allows me to manifest that life? And that was the final piece for me to understand, having a vision is important because it's the vision is like setting your sights on a target, right? It puts you in the direction. And then you start to learn, okay, here's the path, so to speak, that I have to take. And then you start to equip yourself. Like, let's say we're going on a hike. I want to get to the top of whatever mountain. Cool, here's the path. Now, what do I need to bring? I need a backpack. I need a guide. I need a map. I need food. I need all these resources. If we look at that analogy as in like the things you bring on your trip, as in personality, identity, beliefs, thoughts, emotions, that'll allow us to take the action that creates the outcomes that we want. And the intention here is to focus on who you can become now. Doesn't matter about the outcomes. You don't have to have the car or the business, but who do you have to become as a person and how you show up in the world and operate that allows you to do the things that you know are necessary to have that outcome. And with that, it increases the probability of having that outcome because we know we can't control anything in life, but we know with effort, we increase the probability of having it, but it also shortens the amount of time until we experience it. So, going towards obsession and passion and purpose and intention, really, it's to direct your focus to what you want to be true about your life. And when you can shift your focus on that, anything else is just noise. It becomes irrelevant because it's just a part of being a human being. And I'm facing that more than I have in 11 years with an upcoming second brain surgery to remove a new mass that we found. I could easily focus on why is this happening to me? All the original thoughts 11 years ago, like what did I do to deserve this? Like I'm gonna die, like all these things. And that could be true. Or what I've done is shifted my focus to, okay, what is there to learn from this? How can I leverage this to better my own self, my own life and being? And how can I share all of what I'm learning and experiencing with other people to build the belief that you are more than your circumstances? And it comes with focus of what we want to be true rather than focusing on all the problems that we are experiencing. And we can't have one without the other. That's what I've been referring to as like this dual reality we live in. Because we define what's good, therefore we define what's bad, what's up that has a down, and so many of us focus on just living in that ideal version of like happiness or bliss or joy and avoiding any type of pain. But without pain, we don't have joy and pleasure. So we have to acknowledge that and not be I don't think strive for negativity, but appreciate and look through it to say, what is there to learn from this? Because there's learning in everything. And so it all just comes back to finding something you're passionate about, being obsessed with it, being interested in enough to take action in a courageous manner that doesn't dismiss fear, but because what the vision is you have in your mind for your ideal life you're working towards, it's going to dismiss anything going on in your circumstances. And just to tie this up, with speaking about vision, this is what I learned now reflecting on when I was younger, but I had a vision to become a professional BMX athlete. I saw other people that were successful in my eyes. I modeled what they did. And along that pursuit, I built beliefs and habits and skills and talents and all these things that allowed me to participate in those actions to have my outcome. And along that pursuit, I got to a level that I didn't even fathom being a reality for me because of that just obsession and passion to do what I wanted and to create that life. So for me, I believe everyone should have a vision that they're working towards. Because when you are in any down moment, any type of pain, suffering, negativity, challenges, whatever, you just remind yourself of what you're working towards. And that allows you to be greater than your circumstances, which allows you to take the action to not identify with your problems, your obstacles, your struggles. And when you're defined by what you see in your mind and what you're working towards, that's what allows people to get out of bed. That's what has allowed me to get out of bed, even when I didn't feel motivated or I felt depressed or I felt stressed. I know what I'm working towards and I know why I'm working towards it. And so that's just my whole take on vision, I guess, long story short, even though that was a long winded answer.
I think there are a few things I want to unpack from what you said, and I want to start by saying that, like, right now I am reading *Indistractable* by Niraj Jael, and also this morning I was listening to a podcast of his in which he was talking about *Indistractable*. But the one of the main points is that we many times focus on outcomes, but uh, connecting it to what you were saying, like reverse engineering and tapping within ourselves are things that allow us like to focus more on the input than on the output. I mean, Near was talking about it more like focused on productivity, but I
Mm-hmm.
think this still applies like for the long term and for a
100%.
vision. Hmm. And then also I talking about like when things get tough and you maybe lose your North Star. I actually gave like maybe 2 weeks ago a conference for an organization in the UK, and it was about like setting a vision, and I called it North Stars.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, I emphasized mostly like the idea of setting a vision, but not too much the idea of actually following through. And I think that that is an important step. Yesterday I was also having a podcast conversation with Nick Shaw, who is the author of Fit for Success, and we were talking about how action is pretty straightforward. It's like you cannot talk much about action because you can only like act, and that's it. It's, there's nothing much to talk about it. um yeah, and I don't know if you would like to add anything to that, because I would like to ask you about like also how was the process of recovering after your first brain tumor, and about your tattoos, which is something I think is related to this.
Yeah, so remind me of those two topics if I forget, because something you said I want to address is, there's a quote that comes to mind from what you just explained, and that's, the quote, "Be about it, don't talk about it." And if you break that down, don't talk about it, be about it. Being about it, in my mind, encompasses action, belief, perspective, identity, thoughts, vision. So it's easy for people to say, I want X, Y, and Z. I
Mhm.
need to do X, Y, and Z. But why do people not pursue what they say they want and need in their life? It comes down to limiting beliefs. And if people can clean the slate of that and focus on who do I need to become, which is a complicated process, but whatever you just were describing, what brought up to my mind was that quote, "Don't talk about it, be about it." And that's powerful because we can talk about all the things we want to do, but unless we're becoming and embodying the person that has the life that we want, how can we expect to have that life? And so it comes back to vision. What do you want? Vision is really simple. It's just getting clear on what it is you want. And
Mhm.
if you can't decide what you want, start with everything that you don't want. That's
Mhm.
usually really easy for people to list everything they don't enjoy about their life. All you need to do is start there, flip it. That's, you want the inverse of it. If you are, I don't like being tired, for example. So then you want more abundant energy. I don't like being broke. So you want financial freedom or financial abundance. You just flip it. And then you just start describing what that life is like. And then you describe the type of person you have to become, which we know we can be now from a mental and emotional standpoint. And then the behavior comes after that. But it's, if when people are focused on strictly outcomes, then they think, how little do I need to do to get the most return on what I want, right? Like that's like a
Mhm.
common thinking process in today's society, especially with everything at our fingertips that we could want. Depending on how much money you have, you can have the world, right? So I think it comes back to, being about something, and that's doing. And this is what I learned as an athlete. People see the contest, people see the video parts. They don't see the day in day out grinding at the
Mhm.
training facilities, at the gym, the mental work that goes into it, and the education and all that stuff. But that's, when people aren't watching you, that's what I believe is someone that's successful, is they're doing the things, mind and body, that they need to do, so that way they can live the life that people see, which is the competition times, or the cameras are on, so to speak, the lights are on. And I don't know if we mentioned this last time, but one of my favorite, I have a lot of favorite quotes, but one of my all-time favorites, like top five, we'll say, is from Matt Fraser, CrossFit champion 5 times in a row, then he retired. And he said something along the lines of, I do the things today others won't do so I can experience the
Mhm.
things that they can't tomorrow. So he's saying, like, I'm gonna do the shit today that no one else really wants to do, and it's not enjoyable because I know the payoff is going to be great, delayed gratification. But he has a vision in his mind and he's willing to grind it out, and it shows. That's why he, was podium last 7 events and, got first place last five. So that's just what came to mind for what you're describing. And then I believe the next question was, how is the recovery after
Yeah.
their first brain tumor diagnosis?
Yeah, you just I want to add one thing, like to the things you just said, and connecting it to the analogy you gave about like hiking to get to the peak of the mountain. It's like the difference between like wanting the process, yeah, wanting to experience the process of hiking, to then also get to the result, to the peak. And the other part, and the other side of it is like just thinking, what can I do? What's the least that I can do just to get to the peak, and not go through the journey. But yeah,
Yeah.
just that was what I wanted to add. But then
And on that, the journey, I find people get so focused on the outcome that they, this conversation about being present, how important is that? Even though a lot of us may not understand that at the time, or may not understand how to do that, it's very simple. It's enjoying the process, and it's enjoying the dual reality of negativity and positivity, of good and bad, up and down, whatever you want to label it as. And when you've reflected on the past and people have these regrets of, oh, I wasn't focused on this person or this thing I was experiencing, because they're so focused on that outcome. How do you know you don't already have your outcome? Or how do you know you'll have your outcome if you're just focused on some outcome and you're not focused on the journey? It's just like, what you just were sharing was brilliant, because if you're focused on getting to the top of that mountain and you're just focused on what little or what action in general do I need to take, but you don't know what you're looking for, you don't know what you're going after, all these things along the process that could be beautiful, that could be profound and euphoric, like, you're missing right over them. And it's not about the outcome. Like, I believe that there's no destination as a human being.
Hmm.
And I've been learning through all these various experiences of how important it is to appreciate the now. Nothing is real other than what's currently happening for you in your life now. When you can appreciate the fact that you're a living human being and you get clear on what you want to be different, if there's anything you want to be different about your life, what actions need to be taken, but more importantly, how do you need to operate today? It's going to make that journey so much more enjoyable, to the point where you appreciate the process, you appreciate the journey, that the destination, the outcome, you kind of forget about it because you're so in tune with the moment that you're experiencing, and it just progresses to one day you wake up and you have your outcome and you don't even know it. And then all of a sudden, as a human being, you're like, what's next? We don't just
Hmm.
play a video game and beat level 1 and be like, oh, I'm done. We want to get to level 2. We want to get to level 3. We're human beings. We're wired for progression. We're wired for getting to that next level. And so I think it's really important that, yeah, we have an outcome, because that's, like you said, it's your North Star, that's directing you of where you're setting your focus and your sights on. But then the journey is the journey. It's the experience of living as a human being. If we're so focused on an outcome, or in the inverse, we're so focused on the past and getting depressed or angry or upset about it, we miss everything that's happening now. Like, us being in this present moment, having this conversation, is a part of my journey, and is a part of the vision I created for my ideal life of doing these things on a daily basis. Like, having conversations like this, it's expressing myself and living my authentic life that is on the path to what I'm envisioning for my ideal life. But it's always progressing. I'm never going to get to where I want to go, and that's the fun of it. Like, it's always leveling up. The more I understand myself, the more I start to understand other people, and the more I appreciate the experiences now. I get to a point, for example, like, I always had this dream to have this car, for example, and then I got into a financial position to have that dream car, so to speak. But now that I'm there, I'm like, do I really want it? Like, what does that do? But then I already have 2 other cars as stepping stones above that would be cool to have one day. But it's like interesting, because when you progress and you keep getting the next level, it's almost like that outcome just starts getting bigger and bigger, or further and further away. So it stretches the journey, so to speak, because all these milestones are, outcomes, but we miss over them because we want something else, but we don't understand why we want that thing. And I think that comes back to the vision, and two is getting clear on what you want, but why? Why do you want that? Why do you want,
Hmm.
$1 million? Do you even know what that number means? Do you know why that number came to be, or why you want that car or that house or that job or those clothing, or you want people to think of you that way? Like, why? Like, what about you is telling you you want that? Most of the time, it's about other people. It's not about our true self. And then that's why it's so easy to excuse the journey and dismiss all these beautiful moments, like us having this conversation, because we're so focused on things that we want to be true about our lives, but we don't have the understanding that it's not for ourselves. It's not our true self. It's our ego. It's
Hmm.
people's perceptions of us and what we think we need to get status and recognition. When it's like, no, just focus on what makes you happy. Focus on why you want X, Y, and Z, why you want to do those things, and just appreciate the journey, because everything is like, all the things we want are in the process. And that's what, to end this topic, in my rant, so to speak, is, a common question I get is, how do I find purpose? Or like, I don't know what my purpose is. How do I, how did you find yours? It's from pursuing the journey of what I wanted. It's from, the pursuit of that dream to become a pro athlete. That dream could be different for anyone. For you, it could be, having a top rated podcast. It could be writing a book. For someone else, it could be, this painting, or going to this school, or releasing an album, or getting this job, or having a family, like whatever it is, right? It just, Yeah, I don't know. I think you get it.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I would like to briefly unpack three things here. The first one is that, like, talking about the points being the process, I think I once read or heard the analogy of life being like dancing, and that the main point is not like to finish the dance or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
it's the process, the action of dancing, and I like that analogy.
I think you
And
either
then
share that with me or I have seen that analogy somewhere. And that's, yeah, it's that's a great way of putting it.
it is, and then the other two things were, like, first, as you say, there are two sides of the spectrum, or that's what I like perceive. One side is one extreme is like only focusing on the outcome or on the vision, and yeah, mostly on the vision and forgetting like the process and not enjoying. But then there's also like maybe the other extreme, the other yeah, side of the spectrum, which is like being comfortable where you are right now. Yeah, and what do you think of like those two? Well, you already talked about like the other side about um focusing also on the journey, but when someone feels like right, when someone feels good about like staying in a certain position and situation, and when that person doesn't want to change, then yeah, what happens? What are your thoughts, and what should that person do?
Yeah, so this morning I was at the coffee shop and they have a banner hung up that says "Comfort is a slow death." And so when you think about that, comfort is our brain not being triggered by any stimuli, right? Like we're comfortable, and that is why people don't pursue change, because even if it's not desirable, it's familiar to the body. So the same thought process, the same emotional reactions, the same behavior, the same feedback loops just keep continuing, and we create a sense of comfortableness, like comfortability. And then all of a sudden we realize we want more than that. But to get out of comfort is a sense of stress. And stress creates the emotion of fear that we label as fear. It prevents us most of the time from doing the things we know we need to do. A simple example of this is, people say they want to get in shape. They want to get fit. They want to get healthier physically. So what do they need to do? They need to get out of their comfort zone of hitting snooze or sleeping in every morning. Maybe get up a little bit earlier. Maybe get up on time and go exercise. Just do something different. But that's a different thought process. It's a different action. And then you add in the conflicting identity pieces of, I don't believe that I'm a healthy person, so I am going to stay in bed. So it conflicts. So comfort to me, there's that cliche saying, get comfortable with the uncomfortable, right? We've all heard that. But it's so damn true. And that's why those things become cliches. It's because it's so simple, but it's so true that it's easy for people to dismiss as just being cliche. But that's where going back to purpose and the pursuit of the journey uncovers your purpose. All these things would comfort. And it's like, I've been faced with so many challenges from all different spectrums of pain, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And if it wasn't for that uncomfortable experience, I wouldn't have been challenged to open my eyes to what else I can accomplish in my life. What other levels of success with health, with being a contributor to society, with my business, with my relationships, with my communication. I would have never been challenged. Just like without stress, we can't have breakthroughs. So when people get complacent, it's because they get comfortable, which really isn't really comfortable. It's a fear of doing things differently for all different various reasons. It usually has to do with some type of belief structure that's avoiding the action that's presenting the emotion of fear. So they get comfortable because it's familiar to the body and it's undesirable, but the vision, although pleasurable, isn't as meaningful to the human life because it doesn't provide a survival mechanism. Pleasure doesn't mean survival. Fear equals survival because that's what fears, like our ego is designed to protect the body. The unconscious mind's main objective is to preserve the body. So when you're facing running for your life, or maybe I'll go have a bite of that apple as like a primal caveman, example, what's going to be more meaningful, getting eaten by a tiger or a lion or having a bite of an apple? It's going to be running away from the tiger to preserve your life and then enjoy the apple. And I think that that comes back to people getting stuck and being complacent with comfortability. Because yeah, it's comfortable, it's familiar, it's known, which is why, because it's known to the brain. But are you happy? And so many people get used to it. And I was that person. I was used to pain and suffering, whether that be literally or figuratively, emotionally, spiritually, and with my health, that I got scared to do other things, right? Like I got, that's why I took a year off from BMX, which has now led into a year and a half. And I don't have any, um, I have interest, but I don't have any plans to get back on my bike for various health reasons. But
Hmm.
I got locked up in that identity that I'm just the BMX athlete. I got comfortable there. I created a voice for myself, a platform, because I was that person. It took me a long time to realize who I am allowed me to do those things, to get labeled as that type of person. But there's layers beneath that. There's a type of person, an identity that allowed me to express myself to do that. And had it not been from the learning lessons of BMX so vividly, of getting uncomfortable physically or mentally and emotionally, I don't think I would have had the foundation that I do today, which has compelled me to dedicate my life to sharing these concepts with people like yourself, and then teaching other people that want to create change, but they don't know why they're stuck. That it comes down to this comfortable sense to the brain that is pleasurable and keeping us safe, so to speak, even though we know, making a change isn't going to harm us most of the time. Maybe it will, because we create these fears that are man-made of like, oh, what are they going to
Hmm.
think of me? Or what if I fail? It's not going to result in you getting eaten by a lion. It's going to result in maybe some insecurity. But it comes down to, what do you want? What are you willing to do for it? Because if you are just focusing on being comfortable and safe, you're not going to go anywhere, at least where you want to go. And this is only speaking to people that are unhappy, that are unhappy with any aspect of their life. Because if you're happy, being comfortable, I mean, it kind of doesn't even make sense in the equation, because you're happy, you're just living. You're doing the things you enjoy, and you're pursuing that journey. That comfortable, like the comfortability doesn't really show up, because for someone to be truly happy, my belief is that they're always pursuing how they can better themselves, which is the first step to finding your purpose in life, is to become the best version of yourself. And that's where I was going back with the journey earlier, pursuing the journey. You uncover what that purpose is. Had I been asked at 17 years old, when I dropped out of high school and moved 14 hours from my family to pursue BMX, hey, what's your purpose in life? I wouldn't even know what a purpose really is, let alone say, oh, it's to help other people define their realities by what they see in their mind, what they want to be true about their life, and help them make change. I never thought I'd be speaking around the world, I'd be teaching other people, and I'd be writing books and things like that. But because of pursuing my passion and being obsessed with that vision to become a BMX athlete, all of the struggles along that journey, if you want to even call them that, I call them learning opportunities, because it got me to where I am today, was unfolded in that pursuit. I had to get very uncomfortable. And I didn't even see it that way, because I was just so defined by what I saw in my mind. You think back to Dr. Martin Luther King, I have a dream. That is one, like, that's a great example of being defined by what you see in your mind, even though everyone and everything in your
Hmm.
environment externally is telling you that's not possible, or that doesn't exist, because it doesn't yet. But the more we're defined by our vision, the more we speak our truth into existence, and we have a purpose of serving other people, the more that we're going to see that vision unfold. Sometimes it doesn't happen in our lifetime, but that's what being on purpose, off self, is so important for, because it's not about you. I've had these wake up lessons, which is, literally dying, flatlining. I got knocked out so bad one year at a contest, or facing, the risk of dying with brain surgery. I've had these wake up calls to teach me everything in my life is happening for me, but it's also happening for a larger purpose that's above me. And that's what I believe, spirituality tells us. It's like everything and everyone is connected some way, somehow. And when we can focus on becoming the best version of ourselves, we'll find a higher purpose, which is serving other people. It's larger than us. It's larger than what our ego is telling us, that
Hmm.
like, oh, this is happening to me. This sucks. Like, that's all real, but there's a bigger picture of the world. And I think I might have mentioned this to you or someone else recently, but there's a YouTube video. If you YouTube Carl Sagan pale blue dot, it's a video of Carl Sagan narrating this 3 or 4 minute video that's slowly panning out from Earth into space. And it's really getting to the point that, like, you think everything in your
Yeah.
reality is all about you. but there is a larger picture here at play. Whether you say it's God, it's the divine feminine, it's quantum physics, it's spiritual energy, whatever, there's something larger than you. And that can help perspective to realize this is happening for me. It could always be worse no matter what you're going through because you're still alive. And if you can take all that and try to become the best version of yourself, optimize yourself, then you'll find what you're really passionate about, what your purpose is. And it always comes back to some type of contribution, whether it's art, it's speaking, it's writing, it's having conversations, it's medical field, it's whatever. It's
Mhm.
always about something larger than yourself.
Ah, many great ideas to talk about here. And well, just like before, adding some things I want to mention. I want to say to people listening that I will add that video you are talking about in the description of the episode. Um, but yeah, so firstly, like going back into evolution, you are right. Like species that have been here like for a long time have been evolving because they have been uncomfortable. They have been moving. They have not just been in one place and comfortable. And the other species that did not move and that maybe didn't experience uh, a great amount of fear, let's say, or stress. That would, I think that would be a better word. Those species, most of them are not here anymore, and that is completely true. And we can also like connect it to our modern day society, that people who usually look um look forward to change, like and to transformation, are the ones that like um prosper and that thrive, and that other people that like to stick to the status quo and to how something works in these days and in the present, are the ones that in the future might not adapt.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that is something very very interesting, and many like great movements in society, and many wars, and many conflicts and things that have changed how humanity works, have been caused due to individuals who have had this vision. You were talking about Martin Luther King, um, and then they started to like create it and to add more people, to lead more people, to lead with this vision. And I really think that is something interesting. Talking about leadership, I can recall that John Maxwell, there's a conference he gave in December, I think, when he was promoting his new book, and he was talking about how people only change. He gave four reasons. I only remember three, but the first one is like people change when they need to, people change when they are inspired to, people change when they actually can, when they have the resources, and then there was another one which I don't really remember. But that is also true. Like when someone is inspired to pursue a vision, then you change your reality following that vision. And going back into the idea of enjoying the moment and the present, like the journey, in episode 27 of my podcast with Joel Primus, we were talking about transformation and an analogy of the journey of water from the mountains into like the ocean, and how it is mostly about the process and about adapting, and as humans also about like acknowledging what transformation you have created and what transformation you are creating. Not just about like the future, it is also about, even if it's just for 5 seconds, like acknowledging your present moment. Yes, humans, we have to look forward to creating stuff in the future and all that, because I mean that's how we progress and how we evolve. But it is also important, like actually developing this consciousness about what you have created, about the process, and about the impact you are generating. And I think that is something very interesting. Have you read A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle?
I have not.
Well,
I'll
it
add
is
that to the
really,
list.
yeah, it is really a great book. And in there, Eckhart talks about like many ideas, and two of them are like, one, creating stuff not because your ego needs to create stuff, in order to feel valuable.
Mhm.
So he talks about not creating, not from that perspective, from that point, from that situation, but creating from a situation, from a standpoint of like consciousness, and like this thing, this project that I'm wanting to create, like comes from within. It's one thing for me to give life to it. It's not that I need to create it to feel myself and to feel valuable, but it is like one thing to be created, or I want to create it because I think it is something valuable and something that is within me that has to be like externalized. And that's again going back into into Martin Luther King and all the movement that he was leading. Like many people nowadays still lead like movements and new experiences that might not resonate with everyone. For example, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Richard Branson, they're pursuing space stuff, and for many people, they might judge them because they want to leave Earth or whatever. But maybe in the future, like humanity will see that that was something like necessary for humanity to still have more probabilities of like being, of existing. um in when the middle age, I think that's its name, started to come to its end, many individuals started like to see this new reality, and then from there also came capitalism, and this reality that they knew started like to fall down, to disappear. And all these things come from like the from things that individuals um create like from within, and many times they come from the ego, but many other times they come from like actually from a higher purpose, as
Mhm.
you say,
Yeah.
from trying to impact. um and I would like to ask you, what are your thoughts on like creating? I think this goes back to the idea of like creating from ego. But what are like, or what's your perspective on trying to leave a legacy for the sake of you being remembered versus creating a legacy to actually impact and yeah, make a change in others' lives?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what my journey in the last 11 years alone has taught me, that a lot of my goals I had when I was younger were self-serving. And then after the third brain tumor diagnosis, 2017, which my last year competing was 2016. So it was right after that. I think it was like 3 months later, I got a third brain tumor diagnosis. And it led me to making or choosing the meaning of all this to be serving others. It was getting off self on purpose, which I developed a purpose to help other people. So when I was younger, my identity, with my ego, my conscious self was saying I want to do this. And then through a lot of dramatic, what I call wake up calls, I got in touch with my true self, and I started to question everything about me. And what is my purpose? What is the purpose of all this? For what purpose am I going through this? And
Mhm.
why am I overcoming it? And I recently just realized, a nice bow on it, if you will, is that I'm not here to just survive. I'm here to overcome and share that with other people, because I believe that's one of the core concepts of human needs, is to contribute to society. I think at
Mhm.
every core of all the depths of our core, every human being wants to help someone. They want to have an impact. And I think wanting to be recognized by that is an ego, I don't know if there's the right way of saying it, egotistical way of looking at what we want to do, which is neither right or wrong. What is, in my belief, the correct way of approaching it is finding the middle ground with ego and true self, because we know our true self um, is often suppressed in today's society. That's why we have these egos. Like people say, "Oh, he's
Mhm.
got a big ego because he's cocky or whatever." No, that person is probably overcompensating for the insecurity they have. That being loud and cocky, whatever, is protecting them. That's what the ego does. It's the ego is trying to protect us. Oftentimes in today's society, it's not necessary. So I think with leaving an impact versus having a legacy, I don't believe in there being right or wrong with it. My personal belief is it's not about me. because that's our ego in mind. It's like, oh, well, what if I'm not recognized for this? Well, why the fuck does
Hmm.
it matter if you're not even alive and you're trying to create something that is existing beyond you? It doesn't matter. Like what good is you having recognition for this thing that you created or brought to the world or contributed to the world? What good is that if you're not alive? Like, or when you're no longer alive? It doesn't matter. So like
Hmm.
having that understanding, it's okay to want to be known and recognized, because for me that allows me to fulfill my purpose more, to reach more people. Like I have to have a name and growth with my name, like grow the brand, if you will. Um, but that's not what's important to me. What's important to me is having a deep impact, because what I'm trying to do isn't just for my lifetime. It's for other generations to come. It's going back to the Dr. King analogy. Like he saw this vision in his mind for humanity. It wasn't just him. He wanted this for everyone. That's why he put his life on the line and devoted his life
Hmm.
to creating that change. He didn't just talk about it or present on it. He embodied it, and he led by example. And that's where Simon Sinek's work in what's that book called? The Start with Why: How Great Leaders Inspire Action in Others. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So you're not going to resonate with everyone because everyone's on their own path, their own comprehension. Communication is one thing, but comprehension is another thing. We can use the same words, but if we have two different meanings of that word, that phrase, we're not on the same field of play. And so what Simon talks about is having a deep why or purpose behind all the things you want to do, and then embodying that, leading by example, inspiring people through belief of why you're doing what you do, because other people are going to believe that too. And then over time other people may hop on, but it's about being defined by something that's greater than your circumstances. And then there was another thought I had, I wanted to share that kind of brought all this together. um Shit, what was it? Oh, it's the phrase ecology. It, when we're talking about what we want to do in the world, what goals we have that we want to accomplish, ecology represents the question: is it good for self? Is it good for others? And is it good for the planet? So
Yeah.
ecology is encompassing more than you. And that's my belief about spirituality. It's not religion. It's not this or that. It's just connecting to everyone, everything in the universe. I don't know what it was like before I was born. I don't know what it's going to be like after I'm here. I don't know. I don't quite resonate with formed religion. I don't quite resonate with multiple lives. Like I'm very interested in Buddhism and psychedelics. Like I don't know. So I'm just trying to do my best to be the best version of myself, contribute to society as much as I can, and enjoy the journey and lead by example, embody what I believe, because I believe that embodying what you believe is what gets other people inspired, because they see you doing something that they kind of resonate with in one way or another, and then they build a belief that, oh, I can do that too. Especially if they believe what your mission is in life, then that's going to lead to deep impact. And so when you take out the ego of wanting to be recognized, there's nothing wrong with having a legacy, because I know, like let's say I have kids one day, like I would love to know that I left them with
Hmm.
a legacy of my work that they can carry out and they can have recognition for, that can help them in their own pursuit of passions and purpose. But it's not about any of that. It's about what is the purpose of contributing to the greater good of humanity and the planet and the universe. And I don't know where all that goes once we're no longer here. But to me, it's not about, like, I could care less about people knowing my name. The fact that people that I've never met know my name from all different types of places around the world is phenomenal to me. It's insane, because I did something that I loved that
Hmm.
got other people's attention, be interested in me. Jim Carrey speaks about this. He's like, I did something that people valued so much that they present their best self to me. I had that experience after hearing him explain that, when someone found out about my past, being a Pro BMX athlete. This, I was at the car dealership, just all this stuff. And then all of a sudden I saw him, his switch, and he just lit up. His energy went up. He was like, are you good? Do you need it? Like everything changed about his demeanor. He was presenting his best self to me because of something I did that I naturally wanted to do anyways. I don't care if people know my name or not. The only reason I do slightly care, I should say, is because it helps further my mission. It gets
Hmm.
other people to learn my story, and then that brings them into my world of, here's what I believe, here's what I want for you and the world. Help me fulfill that mission by spreading this message. My name doesn't need to be attached to it, but my purpose and my story does, to get people compelled enough to be interested in it, and then to go embody that themselves in their own manner within their own society. So to me, that's the difference between legacy and impact. is it's okay to combine the two. There's no right or wrong. I don't believe anything in life is right or wrong. It's just
Hmm.
whatever meaning you give it is going to give that energy, and then you're going to, see the result of that in your reality. But to me, it's just having an understanding that, legacy is one thing, impact is another thing, and it's okay to want a little bit of both. But really, why? Whenever someone's so focused, like I need to be known, like they didn't attach my name to it, or they didn't give me credit. Okay, why does that matter to you? And it never fails, as long as they're being open and honest. It always goes back down to some insecurity. The only reason people care about recognition is to fulfill a void that they have, a human need of being heard. That's what a lot of famous people, Shia LaBeouf, Jim Carrey, they all speak about this. Like, I needed fame and fortune to teach me that wouldn't make me happy. I needed to reach these status levels because I had this feeling of not being heard when I was younger. That was me. I always suppressed my truth growing up, because to me, when I was younger, that literally meant pain from an abusive stepfather. So anytime I expressed myself and it wasn't aligned with his belief of how a man should express himself, I got physically beaten. And so it took me until I was in my mid 20s to actually open up and express myself, which is why I go on these tangents of speaking so much, because it's like years of having my truth suppressed that now I'm like, I want to get it out, because the more I get it out, the more I realize it helps other people, and it helps other people do the same thing, which helps other people, and it just creates a ripple effect. And to me, that's deep impact. It's not just about myself, which is cool to be recognized. Obviously it fulfills the ego and be like, oh, cool, my name. But like, I'm more interested in like, oh, cool, now you know my name, you know what I'm about. What do you want to create in your life? Let's go there. Like, I don't like small talk. Like, I want to know, like, what are your hopes? What are your dreams? What are your fears? What are the obstacles you're experiencing now? Because I want to help. And that's to me the purpose of why I'm on this earth. And that I just had a conversation today, facing a second brain surgery 11 years later. That's after a first surgery and radiation, all this shit. And it's like, cool. This is in my life because I'm able to overcome it and I'm able to do something with it, which is what the third diagnosis did for me in 2017. It got me clear of my purpose beyond myself. And it took 3 years after that to stop riding,
Hmm.
which mostly is focused on health today. I can't risk hitting my head because I want to preserve the brain function and resilience and health I
Yeah.
have. But for a while, it started out with like, who am I without my bike? For over a decade, professionally, I built an identity around being a BMX athlete. So I decided January 2020, what's life like without my bike? Who am I without my bike? I had that crutch of, oh, I did something cool that most people can't do. Now people want to know more about me. I don't need that though. Because what I embody today, my messaging, which is what I learned from Simon Sinek, which I learned from Kerwin Ray, which I learned from all the great leaders and thought leaders that we reference, Stephen Covey, like you said, John Maxwell, like all these people, Dale Carnegie, like there's so many people to list. It just goes on. It's just about embodying what you believe, and you make up, you define who you are. It's not what you do. It's not your past. It's not other people's perceptions. And I believe if you have a vision, that helps you define yourself, because you can be defined by what you're working towards rather than any shit you're experiencing. And that's not to say to dismiss it. That's not to say to dismiss the reality of bad things happen. But that's a human being. The fact that you're alive is a miracle. And Gary Vee always
It
uses this
is.
analogy. It's like, what, 400 trillion to one that you're a living human being. If he jokes about this, if your mom had one more sip of wine or one more glass of wine that night, maybe you wouldn't be born, right? Like, if your parents did something different and never met, you wouldn't be here today, right? Like, it's so true. So yeah, that was a tangent about my perspective on legacy versus impact.
I I really feel that you're a genuine person, and I can like feel physically what you're talking about as we talk through this Zoom. And I really encourage you to read A New Earth, because you will. I mean, maybe most of the ideas will be things that you already know, but I think you will resonate highly with it.
Yeah, send me a reminder and I'll add it to my list. Once people started to realize that, like, oh, Josh enjoys reading, I just have like a stack of list of books I bought that I haven't gotten through yet, and then I have a Trello deck of just books. I have like 20 on there now. So yeah, I'm trying to do my best, but yeah, I'm always happy to add a book to my list, especially if someone like yourself recommends it and it brought value to you. Because if I got one thing from reading that entire book, like that's amazing. And I usually find a million things in one chapter.
Yeah, so do and I will send it to you. And going back to the idea of like how leaders through history have risked their lives for a mission. I mean, well, it's not almost. It is scary, like to know that for this mission you might like be risking your life. But I think that's also like, um, yeah, like one might have fear of dying, like on the surface, but like getting deeper, you can see that the mission might be worth more than your life, and that's what we can see with Eckhart talks about that in the book about Jesus, how he literally
Mhm.
yeah gave his life for this idea. And again, going back into a new earth, he really, I think, changed my perspective on religions and how, well, actually, on the messages from God's messengers.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it really is a great book, and I think you talked about everything there. And
Yeah, it
also
sounds
about,
like I'll enjoy it. So for sure, let me know. Send me a reminder and I'll add it.
sure, I will.
And
But
actually, to your point about the fear, dedicating your life to something that could threaten your life, that becomes easy to where you don't think about it because one, you have a clear vision of what you're doing, so any external noise is irrelevant. But then two, it's larger than you, so you're
Mhm,
not fearful for your life, so to speak, because it's larger than you. It's not about you. So the ego can be at peace with knowing that you could die. Like the journey I'm on is very real. I could die.
mhm,
But to me, I don't have fear with that because I literally have, so to speak, died, a flatline for like a minute on the flat bottom of a ramp, knocked out. And then also, I've had a lot of close calls with death. So to me, it's just like, all right, like I believe that what I'm working towards is greater than myself. And the fact that I live with masses in my brain on a daily basis and I forget about that is evidence that it's not about me. It's about something larger I'm working towards. And I think that that's why I've been so confident in expressing myself and then going through these challenges of, a second brain surgery. Like that's no like easy thing. Like that's no simple task. There's a lot of risk involved. But I know that I'll be a good, like that's my belief is like I'll be fine. And I'm willing to put myself in these shoes. And that's why I rode for so long. I rode for, what was it, 10 years after the first brain surgery competitively at an elite level. And people are like, you're crazy. Aren't you afraid of hitting your head or yeah, those thoughts come in, but like that's not what I want to do with my life. I don't want to be crippled by this. I don't want to identify with it. So that led me to finding purpose beyond myself. And all these people we've mentioned in the past that dedicated their life and put their life in the line is because their vision of what they wanted was larger than themselves. It was larger than their ego. It was larger than just filling a void of not being recognized for something. It was just about the greater good of humanity and the
mhm.
planet.
Yeah, well, I would actually like to get into your tattoos because you've got tattoos about fear, and I would like to know also the story of them. But I would just like to mention that, like, for myself, for some years now, I have like had this vision for myself, like for the future, to build, let's say, not an empire. That's not a good word, a good word, but a huge business group like Virgin, like the Virgin Group, around like different industries which I find like valuable, and industries in which I think I could make a change. But more and more, I think that I am like noticing that it's something I want to do because it's, again, as I was saying earlier, it's something that is coming from within. It's not necessarily something I want to do to find myself, but it's something just that I want to externalize. But again, many times I do like fear maybe becoming a millionaire or a billionaire, and I mean, I know it's much hard work and everything, but then I think like I know that on the long term I could actually achieve it, but it's also scary, like the things that come with having a huge amount of money and a huge amount of like impact in people's lives, and that's something that scares me. But again, more and more I can see that it's something I want to do, like from not from my ego necessarily, but something I just want to create, and that over time, and if I do it like with consciousness and presence and in the right way, I could like maybe create a change and actually overcome these fears and see that they are not what will really be happening. They are just like illusions from my mind. But
Yeah.
yeah, let's get into your tattoos. How well? Why did you decide to get the tattoos you've got in your forearm?
Yeah, before I answer that, speaking to what you just were describing, like that's the perfect example of fear of success. Getting what we want will change our reality. And you just told me in which ways your life would be challenged or changed. So like that's a real thing. People don't just fear failure. They actually it may not be aware of it, but they fear success. It sounds like you're very aware of what that fear is based on what you described, but that's a real thing, which creates a loop of self-sabotage. And then we go, I want this, but then we unconsciously do shit that doesn't make it happen because unconsciously we're aware of the changes that will occur, the responsibilities, like what people will think of us if I do create this business, if I do acquire that money, or if I do create this change in the world. Like you're very aware of that. So that's a great example of the fear of success that is really apparent in today's world because we all come from different places around the world, different families, different religions, different races, all that stuff. That plays a role in how we perceive success and the fear that could come from it. So I just wanted to highlight the fact that you're very aware of it. And it makes sense as to why, if you continue on this path, you will create that change that you're looking for. And it'll probably be bigger than what you can fathom right now. And I mean, that's been my experience. And that's been the experience I've heard from other people that had a vision, that were compelled to pursue that vision despite the fears, and ended up being greater than they could even imagine. And that's the beauty of possibility and being a human being. Sometimes, many times, oftentimes, I should say, what we want is from a level of thinking that is limited to the reality of what we can have. And it just takes these moments, these experiences, these conversations, these times of reflection to see how far we've come and what's possible. And then when we get to our outcome, so to speak, it actually may be a lot larger than we envisioned. And that was my reality in BMX. I just wanted to become a professional BMX athlete. I didn't want to go to like Saudi Arabia or India or Iraq or X Games, or X Games was a goal, but like I didn't want to do all these other, I wanted to, but I wasn't conscious of like that could be a reality. I just wanted to call myself a professional BMX athlete and do the things that a professional athlete would do. And then I got to the place where I was like, oh, I'm getting paid to go around the world to live out this dream and do all these other things that's beyond, and like friends with the people I watched on TV and have posters on my wall of. I became friends with them and their families. Like that was something I never could have imagined. And so there's no doubt in my mind that you'll get to somewhere that's even greater than what you're thinking now, because as you grow and your brain grows and your mind expands, you're going to start creating more and more ideas and get creative with it. And then by pursuing that, you're going to create something larger than you can actually fathom right now. And that's been my experience, and a lot of other people I've talked to, their experience. I think if Dr. King was still alive, obviously there's a lot of issues still with equality going on today, but like, look how far we've come today. Like,
Yeah.
like look at LeBron James as an example. Like, who would have ever thought in Dr. King's time that a black man would be a billionaire from sports? Like, how, what I mean? Like, it's as a human being, where we are now, where we can go is higher than we can comprehend now, which is a weird abstract concept to understand. But it's just, yeah, all that to say is like, I'm stoked to see where you go and how far you go, and to be a part of this journey and have this conversation is awesome. And then
It
for the
is.
tattoos, yeah. What was it? 2 days after I had, so 2016, I asked Dave Muir to lunch because I was trying to figure out my path in life, with BMX, without BMX. And I was like, I got Dave Muir as a friend. Why not ask him for advice? He's successful on so many levels. It's like playing basketball and having Michael Jordan as a friend call up and like, hey, I got some questions. So we went to lunch for like 2 hours. Unfortunately, 3 or 4 days later, he ended up passing away. And to have that moment was phenomenal on so many levels. That's just besides the point. But that next, I think it was that evening or the next evening, is when I went and got this tattoo that says on my right arm, "Fear is just a thought," and then my left arm, "Thoughts can be changed." And it's just my reminder that fear is just what we label the emotion that we tell the brain, this is fear. It comes from a thought. So whatever you're afraid of, let's just pick one thing you may be afraid of, and then you can trace it back to your thoughts. You're thinking of, I'm afraid to give this speech. Why? Well, I'm afraid I might mess up. I'm afraid people might judge me. I'm afraid I might not say exactly what I want, or I might not do a good job, or I might lose, whatever it is. Creates that emotion that we label as fear. It's a chemical reaction. Now, how does that influence your behavior? Because that creates the reality that you experience objectively. And there's a great little analogy or acronym for this called TEAR, TEAR. Thoughts create emotions, which influence actions, which create results or reality. So it's just, you can dissect it either way. You can start with reality. I'm experiencing this. Okay, what behavior did you participate in that created this reality? Okay, cool. What emotions sparked that behavior, either to do something or not do something? Okay, cool. What were you thinking? What were your beliefs around that? Right? And so if we don't enjoy where we are in our life, we can go back to any one of those and then go up or down or go all the way around, back and forth. It's just, to me, it's just a reminder that any type of fear that I'm experiencing in life is triggered by the thoughts in my brain. I can change those thoughts, therefore I can get a new emotional response, and that'll influence the probability of me taking new action, which with that equation, you can't help but get a new result or a new reality. And if it's not exactly what you want, that's because you've been a short amount of time. Keep doing that, whatever you just did to get a new result. And over time, you'll be experiencing maybe what you want or maybe close to what you want. And that goes back to, Einstein's quote of the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a new result. Well, adding to that, if you're thinking the same things, that's resulting in you doing the same things, you don't change anything. It's like if you continue giving the same input, you're going to keep getting the same output. You need to change the input, whether it's thoughts, emotions, or actions, and then you'll get a different output, which would be the result of the reality we live in. And that's where that reminder, or it became a reminder. That's where the tattoo came from. It was the first one I ever got. And then I have a bunch of other ones now, but they all have deep meanings to me, right? Like this one, I don't know if you can see it. This one I have on my forearm. It's kind of hard to see, but it's the caterpillar from Alice in Wonderland, and he's got this pocket watch right here. I don't know, you can't really see. Yeah, the angle. I'll have to send you photos. But
okay, yeah.
he's holding a pocket watch with mushrooms surrounding the pocket watch, because in the scene, Alice eats the mushrooms, and then he's asking her, "Who are you?" And that's where psychedelics comes into my reality of the last 2 years of exploring my mind on deeper levels. But the pocket watch, we have, the east, west, north, south, the times, all kind of like pulling away from the pocket watch. And in the center, instead of like a dot with the hands on the clock, is the symbol of money. It's like the money symbol. And because
yeah,
what
I could see that
represents,
one.
what represents to me is that time and money and direction don't define me. I am who I am based upon what I want to become. And that it's a reminder that money and time don't define who I am. They don't make up who I am if I'm successful or not. And it doesn't matter. And it's just a reminder, because for so much of our existence with today's society, we're expected to earn a certain amount of money and then do this and do that, have all these things to be successful. And then what are the stats today? 70-80% of people aren't actually happy. Like, and that's been the reality of all my clients. They have the golden handcuffs, they have the job, they have the house, they have the family, they have cars, they have the money, but they're sick, they're tired, they're unfulfilled, and they're unhappy. But they can't stop doing this because the machine they've created needs to be fueled. And we know over time we can change that. So to me, that's what that reminder is. And then I think for this conversation, what is going to be really interesting is this one. I don't know if it's mirrored or if you can see it, but it's C is greater than E. So it's being at cause for my reality is greater than at effect for my reality. So we can label at effect as victim. Life happens to me. Being at cause for my reality acknowledges that whatever we're experiencing now is our doing. We all take ownership of that. It doesn't matter where you come from, what, it doesn't matter. It matters of how you've gotten to where you are today. It has everything to do with you, whether that's stimuli you've taken in and what you've done with it. So for me, this is the equation for empowerment, is to be at cause for my reality,
Mhm.
be at cause for me creating my reality, whether I was aware of it or not. Most of the time we're unaware of it, we're unconscious. But anytime that we're at effect to our circumstance or our environment, meaning life happens to me, it's their fault, it's because of that, it's not me, it's not that I'm not good enough, it's because I didn't get the opportunity I wanted, or they judged me unfairly, or any of that. That could be true, but that doesn't serve you in getting to the next level in your life. So this is just another reminder to be at cause for everything, because as soon as you own the fact that you are the cause of all the problems in your life, you immediately have to understand that you're also the solution. So to me, that's what that is. And then this one across my knuckles says YOUFORIA, spelled YOU on purpose. And my girlfriend, she got it in her like sleeve on her. But where it comes from, it's a song from my favorite artist, Mac Miller,
Mhm.
and the song is titled YOUFORIA, and the album art, or the clip art for that song, it's got his handwriting putting like spelling out YOUFORIA. She got it in the actual handwriting, but I wanted to start finishing up my sleeve, so I got it across my knuckles. But it's just all reminders to me that I just different beliefs I have and reminders. That's where my tattoos come into play.
Yeah, going into the first part, into like thoughts create emotion, and emotion action, and action results. Was that the structure?
Thoughts, emotions, actions, results, but I also like to add in reality. So results,
Mhm.
aka reality.
Yeah, because I originally think I read something similar in Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, and then there he says that like your blueprint, your mindset, your context creates your subconscious mind. I think that would be a good word. Um, Creates your thoughts, and
Mhm.
then your thoughts, your emotions, and your emotions, your actions, and your actions, your results, and your results like validate your subconscious mind, and it's just
Creates a feedback loop.
yeah, exactly. It
Just
it,
keeps
it
going.
compounds. And then to the part of C over A, of cause, of being the cause and not the effect. And again, to what you were talking about, your clients having the golden handcuffs. In the interview I was having yesterday, we talked about a quote by Viktor Frankl, and it says something like, "Today, almost everyone has the means to live, but not everybody has a meaning to live." And that, I think that, and that is something like interesting and powerful. What are your thoughts on
Yeah.
that quote?
So that's everything to me. That's why I refer to Simon Sinek's work about understanding your why behind everything you do. And that's the first thing I do with my clients is, what change are you wanting to create? Cool. Why? For what purpose? What does that mean to you? For what purpose do you want X, Y, or Z? Because that's the difference of people taking action on a change or not. And that's why people either stay consistent or not with the changes they're making in their life. It comes from that meaning. That's what inspires us to take action. It's not about motivation. It's about being inspired towards something and why you're doing that. Because we can create motivation anytime we want. It's just elevated energy in a moment. That's why so many people go to conferences and get all rah, 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 and get stoked and then don't do anything about
Hmm.
it. It's because motivation is nothing without inspiration. Because inspiration is what gets you out of bed and keeps you moving forward. Even if your best you can do one day is just getting out of bed. And for people that want to create change, yeah, most people have the means to do it, but they're not clear on why they want to do it. And so then they result back to default about being afraid because of X, Y, and Z, which become irrelevant once you're clear in your purpose. And I'm a living example of that. Like everything I've done, it stems back to my why or my purpose, and it's bigger than me, and I'm clear on that. And that's why I put myself in situations that I've been in, financially, health wise, spiritually, whatever area. It's because I'm clear on why I do what I do, and I think that's why people resonate with me. It goes back to Simon Sinek, where people don't buy what you do; they buy why you do it. It's just about communicating effectively with yourself what you want to be true about your life and why. What positive impact is that going to have on you in any aspect of your life? And like you said, yeah, most people have the means to do it. They're just not meaningful, or they don't understand the meaning behind what they want. And as soon as someone can understand, hey, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and it's affecting my life in this way and that way, and it's affecting my kids. I'm showing my kids how to live an unhealthy life. I'm showing my kids that you go to work and you enjoy what you do. You just slave for $1, and then you get to the end of your life and you're unhappy. But when you understand those things, and then you switch the need for motivation to understanding why you want to make these changes, you become inspired. And the more you act in that manner, you create congruency with your actions and your vision in your life, the easier it becomes to welcome adversity. Because then you have a belief that with every adversity, you're going to learn something, and that it's important to go through that to get you to next. It's like, this is what actually I want to say earlier when we were talking about this, is stress. Like, a stone can only be turned into a diamond with pressure and heat. That we could call that stress. You can't have a breakthrough, so to speak, without stress. You need to fall down in life. That's what I've learned with BMX very, very vividly and painfully on any spectrum of being a human and experiencing pain. All of them. You have to fall down to learn how to get forward. You can't come out being born and learn how to run. You have to try to walk and fall down, because then you start to learn, you make connections. If life was so, handed to you, you wouldn't learn anything. If everything was done for you, if you had everything you wanted without any type of stress or pressure, you wouldn't learn anything. Therefore, you wouldn't know how to maintain it or how to grow it. So I firmly believe that people have the means to create the changes in their lives, but the problem I think my belief, what comes down to, anyone that isn't where they want to go in life, isn't experiencing what they want, doesn't have what they want, doesn't matter, whatever it is, the difference between someone being where they are now and where they want to go comes down to a belief structure. That's as simple as that. That's the first domino, is tackling your belief structure. Because I confidently believe that everything comes down to a belief structure, and why most people don't have what they want is because they don't believe that they can have it. They don't believe it's possible for them for whatever reason. As soon as you change your belief structure, then you'll start to see every other opportunity that you want unfold in front of you. It's just a matter of having the courage to take that step into that opportunity, which comes back to why you're wanting to do that, why you want to create that change, why do you want those things, having purpose, having understanding around it. It's not just about what you want, it's about how that's going to impact you and your life and other people around it. It comes back to ecology as well.
Just before starting to wrap up, like going back into stress and into the idea of how diamonds are formed. I would say that also, from what I have learned, like in a neurological level, for your brain to develop new neural pathways and new connections between neurons, you gotta put yourself in new realities, in new situations, which will force your brain to actually make those new connections, and then that like physiologically will also lead to new belief systems and new ways of thinking, and that's how we learn through learn through exposing ourselves and failure. And I would like to just get into two main things before wrapping up. And the first one is like the difference between inspiration and motivation. What do you think of that? What's the difference of those?
Simply put, to me, motivation is just an elevated state of energy in a moment. I can watch a video, I can have someone tell me something or talk at me about something. I can be like, yeah, I'm motivated. And then tomorrow I may wake up and I'm not motivated. The difference between motivation and inspiration is inspiration reminds you why you're doing what you're doing and what you're working towards. And it's going to allow you to be greater than your circumstances. Motivation comes and goes, just like a thought comes and goes. So when you're faced with adversity, if you're just looking for motivation, but you don't know what you're working towards and why you're working towards it, it's going to be easy to fall short of overcoming that adversity, because you're just looking for motivation, which is an ego-filling tool, if you will. But having a inspiration, an idea of what you want your life to be like and what you want to be true about your life and why that is so meaningful to you, especially if it's beyond you, which I think brings it to the next level, is the difference between someone getting out of bed, figuratively speaking, and someone staying in bed. Because the person that stays in bed does so because they're at effect to the reality, looking for motivation. I'm not motivated, so I'm not going to do this. And someone that's inspired, they're at cause for the reality, and they know they can have what they want, It's just a matter of time and a matter of them taking the action to have it. So the difference is looking for external energy versus, which is motivation, which versus creating the energy within, which is inspiration. So anytime someone's saying, how can I be motivated? No, that's a wrong question. How can you be inspired? Because every time you remember what inspires you, you're going to feel yourself lift up in energy. And that's also why it's important to have forms of music, have, networks of people, all these different things that bring that energy to you if you need
Mm-hmm.
to, but also, just to have a reminder, whatever that is, a note or, a vision board or a reminder in your phone, or whatever, something to remind you why you're getting out of bed and doing what you're doing in your life. Because motivation, I know this for a fact, is not consistent. The difference of why I get to the next level in BMX that most people that pursue a sport don't get to, any sport, is because I wasn't looking for motivation. Comes back to vision. I was inspired by what I saw other people doing, and I created a vision for what my life wanted to be like, or what I wanted my life to be like. And I took the action, whether I was motivated or not, because I was reminding myself every day, if I'm only looking for motivation and I'm using that as an excuse to not do the work, then I can't experience what I want tomorrow. It goes back to Matt Fraser's quote, I'm willing to do what others won't today so I can experience what others can't tomorrow. That's the difference between motivation and inspiration, is a vision and a purpose behind that vision that's going to, fuel you internally or from the inside out. Because we know our internal world is reflected in our external world. What we believe and what we think, we're going to see in our external world. It's just a matter of getting clear on the difference between why you're doing what you're doing and why you want that to be so.
I really like talking about like inspiration. That is something that I love and that I have been able to develop through my life. And also, like, these motivational videos are actually motivational because they don't like last for a long time. And I don't personally watch those. I prefer, for example, if I want to get inspired or to remind myself of what inspires me, I could maybe watch the recording of Richard Branson going to space, or someone I admire accomplishing something, or anything. And I think it's something I want to highlight about something that you said, that it's important, like the stuff you take in, like your relationships, like the communication you have, and also the music, and what you eat, what you do, your habits, and all of this, because that like compounds to bring you into a specific level of energy. And that's not yeah, that's not bullshit. That's actually stuff that is real. Like music is energy. Music are waves. Communication are waves. This what I am seeing in the screen right now are waves. And uh, actually everything is energy, and I
Yep.
like that.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with motivation. There's nothing wrong with seeking out external motivation. The difference is being dependent on it and thinking you just do something or you don't because you're motivated or not. Like I still watch things that motivate me, but what I'm looking for in what would be considered a motivational video is what thought process or perspective or
Mhm.
concept is new to me that inspires me. So someone just shared a video that Goalcast put out, like a 4-minute clip of a guy talking on stage, talking about this photographer who was shooting this famous photo of this, I forget what country, but this small person, like a baby or an infant, walking through the desert to get to wherever they need to go. And behind them, like 10, 15 feet, is a vulture just sitting there because the vulture realizes that this little baby that stopped because of energy and the lack of energy, it could prey on it. And so he was taking the photo, it got award winning and all this stuff. And then 3 months later, he took his life because he was told by the people in that area, don't touch them because of whatever repercussions. And in that moment, his ego took over and was like, he wanted to help, but he remembered what they told him. And then he got the photo, cover of the magazine or whatever the award he got. 3 months later, he took his life because he wasn't on purpose. He had the opportunity to save a life. I don't know what actually happened with that life.
Mhm.
The photo was documented, but he chose that documentation rather than contribution. And he ended up taking his life 3 months later, 4 months later, whatever it was, because he realized there was incoherence with what he believed and what he did. And that's just, yeah, I mean, that was so profound to me. But the messaging in that, it was a motivational video, yeah, but the messaging in it from what the guy was speaking about after that story really inspired me to think again, to get reminded of my vision and contribution, and to be inspired by that. So there's nothing wrong with watching
Hmm.
motivational things or listening to motivational things. It's just, what I believe is you have to have an understanding that motivation is just in the time. Inspiration is what lingers and what will fuel you when adversity reaches and you're not motivated. Like, you're not motivated to go to the gym in the morning. But if you remind yourself, hey, I want to be healthy, I want to set a good example for my kids, or I just don't want to be suffering anymore, that will motivate you. It's the vision, it's the inspiration. It's not the other way around. It's not motivation fuels the vision and the inspiration. It's the other way around.
Yeah, and actually, I would say that inspiration drives you to be disciplined, because when you
Exactly.
are not when you have a vision or something that inspires you, but you do not feel in the moment like uh, acting upon that vision, that inspiration will remind you of what you are looking for, and that will lead to you acting, and that's discipline, and it all compounds again.
Yep.
um and well, now the last question I usually ask in these conversations for the podcast is, since my podcast is called The Transformation Journey, what's your definition of transformation, and how do you approach it? And I think that we have talked already a little bit about how you approach it, because we have talked about the journey of, again, going back to the analogy of going into the mountain, that it is about the process and about being present, not just about like the final outcome. But I will leave you speak right now. Mhm.
I think so. To keep this from being long-winded, because I already see the ideas going through my brain of what transformation means to me. Simply put, I believe transformation, like what it means to me, is just growth, evolution, just growth, really. Just like you're growing, like you're shedding your skin, so to speak. You're becoming someone new, and on every which level. So transformation is just taking something and optimizing it and growing and learning more and growing along the journey. And how to transform yourself, how to create transformation within your life and yourself specifically, or any aspect of your life. Yeah, you hit it on the nail, man. It's just going all in on what you believe and what you're passionate about. Because just by pursuing something, whether it's a side hustle, it's a hobby, or it's a full on, like, I'm going to do this as a career, that pursuit will help you learn, which will help you grow. And it just creates a cycle, and you're continuing to transform who you once were to who you are today. I get super emotional to where I start tearing up watching 17-year-old me in interviews of BMX talk, because I can see the insecurity, I can see the pain, I can see this suppressed version of me that I used to identify with, and how far I've come today, and how confident I am in just speaking my truth, that I could see the transformation. Shit, you can take, I'm 32 years old. You can take 11 years from the first brain tumor diagnosis and forget everything before that, and you can see the timeline of transformation every step of the way. So to me, that's what transformation means and how it occurs. Whether we like it or not, we're always transforming. We always on this transformation path. It's just a matter of focusing on what you want that transformation to look like in the future, whether that be tomorrow, that be
Hmm.
next week, that be next year, that be 10 years. Either way, you're gonna transform. Our every part of our body, whether it's in a day or in 10 years, recycles its cells over time. We're literally transforming every moment. Over time, it's just a matter of what do you want that transformation to look like, and how do you make that happen, and how do you show up every day doing that work to have the best probability of you experiencing that outcome of transformation.
Yeah, you talk about how when you were 17, and you were being interviewed, now you can see that you had insecurities and all those attributes. And I would like to ask you, like, in your early in the early stages of your career, how was it for you, like, to maybe start to experience this level of fame or success or accomplishment? Was it something that maybe helped you be more fulfilled, or something that maybe even like put you in a more stressful position, which led you to more insecurities and all that? And if it was the second case, how did you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I never looked at it that way upon reflecting. I think, and this is what, my buddy Mark Metry, you talked with him and the
Mm-hmm.
social anxiety and stuff like that. I always labeled myself as shy. I always labeled myself as shy because I was insecure, so I didn't speak out. And so when I started getting interviewed and I was on television and things like that, and having people come up to me and talk to me, I was always like the shy person because I was insecure and I got so socially awkward and anxious about these different things because I didn't believe that I was a person to open up. And I was actually programmed through my brother's father for most of my childhood to not express myself. And so I had to work through all that. And then as I started gaining success, I was also suffering more inside because what people perceived me as was not how I felt and believed about myself. And Dr. Joe Dispenza has a chapter in his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, titled The Gap. And so when Dr. Joe was, sharing his work and doing all these lectures and getting interviewed and all this success, he didn't feel that, but people perceived him as that. So it created this gap of who am I? Because I
Mm-hmm.
believe I'm this, but people see me as different. And that's what I went through with BMX. Winning contests, getting sponsorships, filming video parts, being on television, all these things. People perceive me as this happy, healthy, successful person, but I didn't feel that. And I was living with a brain tumor I didn't know about. So that made sense to all the suffering physically I had. But I was using alcohol and the excuse that I'm just shy to cover up my insecurities and then
Mm-hmm.
hiding behind even further of my BMX success doing the talk for me. And I just, yeah, I mean, the only thing that helped me, honestly, what helped me was having a brain tumor, going through that journey, because it opened up my eyes to what is important. And then it led me to people like Lance Armstrong and knowing that someone else that did something very similar to me overcame what I'm faced now with. And that it built a belief in myself. And then over time, that led me to auditing different aspects of my life and wanting to optimize, which led me to nutrition, which led me to exercise, which led me to the mind and mental and emotional work and spirituality and all these things. And there's no way for me to really answer it other than I just had this desire to optimize who I was because I needed to do that to get to where I wanted to go, which was the vision I was working towards. And so I don't know if that really answers your question, but that's the best way I can express what I was going through and what helped me get over or overcome that and then create the version you see today. It's just been that journey of transformation and expansion on going all in on expressing my truth in these different aspects of my life that which led me today to where we're having this conversation.
And
Because
there,
clearly I'm not shy anymore. I clearly I'm,
yeah, you're
but
not.
I would have never done something like this, 14 years ago when I was 17 or 15 years ago now. Just it wasn't in the cards for me. It was a miracle. I think it was because it was forced big cameras at a contest. Hey, Josh, speak. We had questions. And I was like, oh, all right, but now it's good.
Yeah, and you know what? One last thing I would say is that, well, you earlier called these experiences with cancer waking calls. I think that's the name you gave to it. But
Yeah.
yeah, we have these situations, these experiences in our lives that are like changing points in which we can like continue on the same path or actually change direction. And we experience those in different ways. And some are some include more suffering, and some others not that much suffering. But Josh, I want to thank you for coming again for a second part of our conversation to my podcast. And is there anything you would like to add, and where can people find you?
Yeah, I just like to say thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to share. I know this was our second time around, so it's been awesome, and I'm looking forward to staying in touch. And yeah, just thank you for your time. Thank you for being interested in what I have to say and sharing that with your community. And yeah, I mean, it's really easy to find me, joshperrybmx.com or any social media platform, whether it be YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all that good stuff, just at Josh Perry BMX. There's a background story to why it's still Josh Perry BMX, but we'll talk about that some other time, I'm sure. So really easy to find me. And I, again, just appreciate you and anyone that listened to what I had to say. I mean, the thing I want people to know is you are more than your circumstances. And I mean, the micro may look different. I mean, you're in a different country than I am. You're a different age. You have different aspirations. You have different challenges to work through. So the micro may look different from person to person, but the macro of being a human being and having certain needs challenged and certain um, part about being a human being all looks the same because we're all human beings. So I just want to encourage people to be greater than your circumstances, to have a vision that allows you to be inspired, to think larger than your circumstances, and to create the identity that you want, not allow your circumstances, which includes people telling you who they believe you are. It's just what the fears of thoughts me change tattoo means to me is just you know either way it can be right or wrong. There's reality, right? Like it is what it is. What do you want though? We all come from different walks of life. We all come from different challenges. I don't believe everyone needs to go through a brain tumor to understand the emotional and spiritual and physical challenges I face. We all have those. It's just a matter of defining what you want and acting congruently with that, and knowing you're more than your circumstance. You're much more than your circumstances.
Well, Josh, thank you for your time, your energy, and your wisdom, and for being a genuine guy, and for the last pieces of advice you have given to people listening and to me. And well, that's been it for this time, and we will do this again in another time.
I'm sure. Yeah. Thank you.
But yeah,